afternoon and welcome to Healthy Lifestyle with Lori Anne. I am Lori Anne Casdia. Our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, yes, Vince, inspire, educate, empower, and to help you fulfill a healthy emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you can feel empowered to have the life you have always wanted and dreamed. What do you think about that? My good friend Vince Perrotta, who has joined us today.
Good afternoon. That's great. That's exactly inspiration is what drives us. It's more fun than achieving the goal. It's always fun to get there.
Yeah. So what do you like better, the end result or the journey there?
I like the journey. I had this conversation with my daughter this weekend. It's the achievement. It brings you satisfaction, but it doesn't give you the thrill, the excitement, and doesn't draw on all the things that make it really fun. It's really the climb that's good.
Yeah, I adore the journey. And before it was always, looking at the end result. And at the end of the day, pun intended, the journey is the best part. And you get to look back. I do this a lot because as the listeners know, I mentor, you know this. And when I'm mentoring clients, every time we have a session, at the end of the session, I'm like, okay, what's our celebrations from last week or yesterday or whenever? And I love it when they look back, they stop and they have to actually think about it. And the ones who are used to it are ready. They're locked and loaded. They can't wait to tell me. Sometimes they can't wait for our mentoring session to tell me about it. They'll text me or call me and say, guess what I did? And I was like, that's excellent. That's so good. But then we'll have the session and they'll have more things because they don't have to be big. We're not looking for huge events. We're looking for little wins as we go. What are some of the little wins you get on a daily basis?
So it's interesting.
Other than getting up in the morning.
Which is a big deal.
Yay, me.
So finding my coffee in the morning, that's a big achievement.
That is good for
Very
you.
excited.
Good for
that
you.
is good for me.
Wow, you're already in the C's. You missed A and B.
But for me, it's the little wins are things that I still like making a list. Right, here are the things that I'm going to do tomorrow. Here's what I need to accomplish. And then, I had this class that I took years and years ago, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, because we used to have planners in our hand.
Oh, yeah.
And they would say, make a list and then make that check in the box. And it does feel really good to know that's off my list. It actually motivates you to do the next thing.
Yeah, to take more things off the list. I use, so I used to do the same thing, write it all down. I still actually write it down. I have one book, not multiple books. I don't recommend multiple books. I take multiple books away from people. One book, because I'm used to writing, and the writing experience is important for setting it in my head. I'm also I have photogenic memory. So when you write it and you see it on a paper, there's a beginning and an end. So I can take a snapshot of that. I can't take a snapshot of electronics because there's no beginning and end.
Right. See, I don't have that skill. I'm forgetogenic. So
forgetogenic.
Things tend to leave my mind as soon as they enter. So if I don't write, and
you're so cute. Your mind. That's adorable.
I miss that the most of everything I've ever lost. So, but writing it down actually helps to ingrain it in you, and it keeps it top of mind. And there's something that I do also, which is if you don't finish something, instead of punishing yourself, at the end of the day, you assess it, right? Take a look at what you didn't do and write it on your next day. Yeah. Like the act of having to carry something forward, it does tend to kind of make you like, hey, tomorrow I am going to take care of that.
Yeah. Well, how many times have you written at a list and you didn't even get to it because other things happened?
That's right.
You don't beat yourself up about that. It's then you just move it to the next day. That's why I like Trello. I use Trello. My clients use Trello. And what you do with this is, I'm sure you're not familiar with it because you're a paper boy.
Tell me, right.
Yeah. So as a paper guy, I use both. I use electronic and I use paper. But the Trello allows me to do checklists. And then what happens is you can digitally move it, so you can drag one card to the next day.
Right.
So I have a weekly board, and then I have my client boards where they have things to do. I drop things in it, they drop things in it. So if they owe me a document, because everybody knows I give homework to my mentoring clients. So when they drop their why in, or their mission statement, or their values, or their 7 areas of life exercise that we do, when they drop it into Trello, then I can pick it up and read it before we have our meeting. Right. So it's really cool. But I love the act of being able, like you said, when I don't finish something, move it to the next day. The other thing I love about it, checklists. It has checklists. And again, when you click that box, it puts a line through because it's done. It's awesome.
It does feel good.
It does.
You have to give yourself things. Look, life is tough and you lose more than you win. Sorry for anybody. I should have announced that was a spoiler. But
I was going to say,
you lose more than you win,
Get
but success comes. Different movie. If you're able to recognize that you're going forward, even if there are 11 things to do, you got 2 done. That's 2 more than you didn't have done. And what you find, even when you're planning, it's not that a plan comes 100% true. It's even if I'm 60% successful, I would not have been that successful without planning, without taking the time.
Yeah. So. That's why I help businesses with their business and marketing strategies. Mm-hmm. Strategy is strategizing what the plan will be. We implement the plan, and then we take the bites at whatever chunk that they want.
That's right.
So you have to make the pizza first. So you have to strategize and make sure you have all the ingredients for the pizza, right? So what's the difference? The strategy is the most important part. Like you said, what will come at certain times, it comes and it happens. And I know a lot of people don't like this, but whatever you're doing is where you're supposed to be at that moment. So there are days where you just can't. You seem like you can't get any treading. There's absolutely no momentum, but that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, and you have to learn how to keep the main thing.
Right.
And that sounds so pedestrian, but when you think about that, there are so many things that dissuade and distract you.
Oh, yeah.
And, you make that list, and the first thing I always ask myself is, what are the things that are critical to today that need to get done?
Yeah.
Somehow there's always 1 or 2 or 3 things tops. If it's more than that, then you're not prioritizing well.
Yeah.
But there's 1 or 2 things that you go, if I do these 2 things, anything else I get is gravy, but this is really important. That'll make the day a success.
Yeah, without a doubt. I also implement the rule of 5. Have you ever done the rule of 5?
What's the rule of 5?
Oh, I love the rule of 5. So there are 5 things you're going to do that day. Specifically, generally before 12 o'clock is the goal. 5 things you're going to do that day that is going to set you in the direction of achieving your goal. So that could be making phone calls. That could be making, notes. That could be organizing something. Just 5 things that will take you a step closer to attaining your goal. That could mean whatever you want it to mean.
I love that. That's really good.
It's called the rule of 5. So you write it down. I do it on Trello's, of course. But I also write it down on my sticky notes and stick that days on my computer screen so I don't forget to do it.
Sticky notes are the best invention in the world.
Oh my gosh. So my Trello used to be all my sticky notes. My whole wall next to me used to have sticky notes all over it of things I had to do. And you take off a sticky note and throw it away. It was the best thing when there were none left. It rarely happened because there was always like, oh, and I have to do this. And you write it down, you stick it on the wall. But the spacing was always so exciting. Same thing with the Trello, though. I have all those cards, and when they're done, you pull them from to-dos over to the completed task. And all of a sudden you see how long that side gets and how short this side gets. And future projects, those were great for sticky notes.
That's right.
The process of doing all those things keeps it top of mind. When I was a little kid, my mom would say, okay, when you go to the store with Dad, I want you to get milk and bread and eggs. And I would stay there the whole time going, milk and bread and eggs, milk and bread and eggs, milk and bread and eggs. I should have just written it down, just never thought about it. But so this is my milk and bread and eggs version is using this tool. And there's lots of different tools out there. I just happen to gravitate towards Trello because it was the easiest, most functioning, and there's actually no cost at the beginning if you don't want to upgrade it. I eventually did because of all my clients, but you could actually sign on and it syncs from your desktop to your cell phone.
Oh, that's wonderful. So
if I have an idea, and they do happen, Vince, I swear, if I have an idea while I'm out of the house or out of my office, I can just throw it on my phone. And my favorite is my personal Trello board, which is my shopping stuff. I used to write lists and then leave the list at home and go, okay, milk and bread and what else was I supposed to get? So it's a really good tool from a personal and professional standpoint.
See, but I'm going to go back to something that your mom did that I think is actually something you speak about, and I've heard you say it. You went to the supermarket and you said milk and bread and eggs, milk and bread and eggs. We need to say milk and bread and eggs, whatever our goal is, so that it's top of mind, because it goes back, keep the main thing. Right? Because milk and bread and eggs, but wow, look at the chocolate chip cookie. Those would be so good. Mm-hmm. And now the milk, bread, and eggs kind of went to the wayside. Whereas, wow, that
had to pick my favorite cookie. Seriously, dude?
Seriously. And we're going to go to a break now for cookies.
Because I'm having the munchies.
The opinions expressed.
No, we already did that part.
Okay. Just making sure. Thank you to our sponsors.
Northwell Health. They have a whole wing for us.
It is healthy.
Well, it definitely has some milk and eggs in it.
I'm sorry. Okay, I can get back. I can. But keeping that keeping that top of mind is always important, because I work with a number of folks that are in my industry, and part of my responsibility is to coach them. And the thing I try to tell people all the time is there are so many things coming at you. The ability to deflect and just kind of, that's a great idea, but that's not what I'm doing. Right. That's a great idea, but I need to do this first.
Right.
Being able to stay on task, focus on your goal.
And if you get those inspirations, but it's not right now, put it down, write it down. Keep a list at the back of your book or in the Trello of those things that you want to do, because you can circle to it. There will be a right time for it. It's just not now, because you need to focus on those goals. And those are the little nuances. How many times have you watched people go, I'm just going to do this one Facebook post, and then an hour and a half later, because they're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, they're off their goal. And there's actually a reason for that. That's just an excuse not to do what they're supposed to be doing.
That's right.
Because they're probably stuck in their mind, or they're fearful. So that's an avoidance. A lot of people are like, well, it's a distraction. Distractions is another term for avoidance.
Well, we create our own distractions.
Yeah,
there's a level of
we allow it.
That's right.
Allow it.
That's the right. We allow it. When you start to take control of your life and say, nothing happens to me unless I allow it to, then it begins to change things, because then you make deliberate decisions. Okay, I'm going to go on Facebook. It's because I want to. Right.
And even then, you should have a certain amount of time that you do that. And if you insist on watching the news and all those other things that are really toxic for you, but if you insist on doing it, put a time limit on it. Don't get your whole life sucked away by it, because that box is a brain sucker. The new version of TV, brain sucking, is social media.
That's right.
And I'm not saying that there aren't a lot of great things about social media, keeping people connected. That was a saving grace to keep people connected, and virtual meetings. During this whole past year.
Right.
It kept us all connected. So could you imagine what this would have felt like to everyone, and how isolated people would have really felt like if they weren't able to connect in this form?
But there's a duality to everything. You have to be able to look at something and say, anything is good to a limit. Nothing is good excessively. Right. There's a lot of old proverbs and adages that they have their truth in them, and too much of a good thing is really not a good idea. There's a limit.
Well, it goes back to having balance. You have to have balance. So yes, you can enjoy the chocolate chip cookies. You can enjoy the periodic drink. You can enjoy the really rich foods or what have you. But then you have to do the other side of that, which is exercise and not do it often.
To your point, actually, I've started something new. My job involves me in front of two screens for a very long period of time. So I used to take a break and I would read an article in the journal or something that just kind of changed my mindset. I actually get up now and I just take a walk. I leave the office. Nice. I get out. It's fresh air. And I find that when I come back, I'm
so excited you're going to say what I want you to say. Go.
I feel so much better. I'm revitalized.
Yeah. Because you actually gave yourself time to just take a breath.
Right.
It's like meditating. You clear out your brain, because sometimes we're working so hard and we're just so focused that we're not being as creative as we can be, and some of the answers aren't coming. So it's kind of frustrating.
Yes.
When you find yourself to that position, walk away. Take a break from it. Do what you did. Take a walk around, because when we do that, and that's what we were finding statistically in our when we were talking to our clients and talking to businesses, is that the people working from home were able to focus more. And they may not have been working 8 solid hours, but they were not working 8 solid hours at the office either.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Spoiler alert to that too. What's happening though is because they can focus, take care of their children, then go back to it, they're a lot more focused. They get higher productivity. So our productivity levels went much higher as a result of that. Now, listen, with everything, there are people who take advantage, and with everything, there are people who don't fall into that. On average, productivity was increased.
And I think you make a subtle point, but a really important one. we fail to recognize that in any situation, 90% of the time something is good. And we tend to focus on the tails that say, oh, here's a way to abuse it. Here's a way that it doesn't really get maxed. Listen, if you get 85, 90% of the time where people are doing what they need to do,
totally agree.
That's a huge success.
Totally agree. I'm part of this large group, and I would say 2/3 of the group are doing exactly what they're supposed to do, and 1/3 is not. But yet we constantly, as the 2/3 doing exactly what we're supposed to do, are constantly getting new rules preached at, all these things thrown at us, changes to accommodate for the people who aren't doing what they're supposed to do, which is my theory is this. I know this is going to be crazy. My theory is talk to the 1/3.
Right.
Go to them, have a conversation. Changing the rule doesn't fix it. Changing the rule, what's happening is it's requiring a conversation with the people not following the rule. And it may just be they don't understand. It's a misunderstanding. By the interpretation. They've changed the rule so often, they're so confused they don't know, because you have to have a PhD to understand what you're supposed to do now. It could be a variety of things, but you should have a conversation. So if you do have 1/3 of your people or 20% of your people not doing the right thing, those are people you have the conversation with, not the people who are doing what they're supposed to do.
I so agree with that, because then you create a rule that prohibits and inhibits the individuals who are compliant and producing. Yeah. And the people who are not are still not. All too often.
They will continue to not.
Exactly. They're trying to get around it because they don't want to do the task at hand,
right,
or focus on the strategy. And so they just find a new way to get around it. And all you do is put obstacles in front of the successful people that are saying, I'm committed to this. I've found a way to be successful. Don't make it more difficult for them.
And also what you do is you take the wind out of their sails. Here they're following the rules, and then after a while you're like, well, why do I bother? They don't have to.
That's right.
So then you lose productivity across the board, and then that organization is scratching their head going, I don't understand. Well, you know what? I find that my most successful clients, my most successful mentoring clients, and myself, we all respond better. And I know you well enough to say you as well. We respond better to someone saying, here, take it, do it,
right.
Bring it back. Let's talk about it.
That's right.
So if we're lifting up the employees, if we're lifting each other up, you're always going to get a better result. And if you're collaborating,
right.
Feedback is the second most important thing that you can do.
And you tend to get a lot of great feedback too when you allow a situation to evolve. What you just discussed is you delegate something to a group of people or to someone. They take ownership of that, and because you've given them the broad objectives and parameters, and said, now find the path for me.
Right.
How do we make this successful? They're engaged, and you allow, if it's a team of people, they come together. Yeah. And what you tend to find is they push and pull each other naturally because they're working together. You can hear the camaraderie comes out in kind of just the natural banter and the fun. They tease each other,
right.
And they get to a better place together because they have that comfort and confidence in each other.
Yeah, and it's a journey together. So the failures and successes along the way, they're doing it together. So it bonds them even closer. So a lot of the companies, they talk to me about doing team building exercises, and I'm like, you do a team building exercise every day when you put your groups together and they're working on projects. So let's work it amongst the projects. And I love that. I also love there's an executive. Your group never did it or hasn't done it yet, but I have an executive retreat, and we take them on a sailboat.
Oh, that's
and we take all the executives on a sailboat. They work the sailboat. They work their butts off. They go across the sound. They go to the other side. We have a really beautiful meal planned for them. They get to relax. And then we start talking about, what was successful, what wasn't successful. And what they find out is all of them, because they're all leaders, all of them are trying to take control. And you'll see some of my best leaders and that are on the boat, they're smart enough not to take to control, and they take a following.
That's right.
They let somebody else lead. And I love watching that movement. And after they have discussions at lunch and everything, we get back on the boat. And we sail back, and again, they're working together. They work entirely different on the way back because now they're more aware of what the whole project was. At the beginning, they were like, well, this is cool. And oh my God, I'm working my butt off halfway through, come off sweating. But and all in all, it's a great day, great experience.
And great leaders, to your point, great leaders illustrate great followership as well.
Yeah.
We always celebrate leaders, but you need great followers to be successful. And great leaders do exactly what you said. They kind of sometimes just withdraw back.
Yep.
Okay, my role now is to actually support. We have somebody who's going to take the lead on this. I've had a team, this was really fun years and years ago, and I brought a bunch of young 20-somethings, and when I brought them together, instead of instructing them, I used to bring them together for lunch, and I let them problem solve on their own. They would naturally get to business, and all I came together was for lunch.
Right.
It's amazing how talented people can be.
It really is. You are listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lori Anne. We are going to take a small break and come back with Vince Perrotta, and we're having real talk about mentoring. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lori Anne. I am Lori Anne, and we are here with the great, fabulous, wonderful Vince Perrotta. How are you?
Oh my, better. Thank you.
That's great. Do you know how they can reach out to me?
How can
and to all the people in Healthy Lifestyle?
How can they do that?
They can email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com, and of course follow us on social media because we are live on social media at Healthy Lifestyle with LA.
LA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because Lori Anne was too long. People were spelling it wrong, so I had to change it.
Oh, boy.
I know. I was like, what's that about? I know. So we were talking about, mentoring and just group activities and retreats.
I was just going to say, the thing I find about mentoring, too, is you watch folks say they want to mentor.
Yeah.
And I find that...
Can you imagine how many times I hear that?
But when you want to mentor, the first thing I say to someone is, how comfortable are you being in the background? Because mentors, I want to see, if I'm going to mentor you, I want you to be wildly successful.
Yes.
And I have to find great happiness in watching you stand up and get tremendous accolades, having nothing to do with me.
Yes.
If you're a great mentor, you step into the shadows.
Yes. Well, yes, you're right. I never really thought about that, but that's true. It's all about lifting other people up. As a mentor, it's giving them the tools they need to succeed. The truth of the matter is we're all hardwired with our success codes when we get here anyway. Right. It's just a matter of giving them the confidence and maybe some other tools like a Trello, like a bazillion other applications and tools that are out there now, whatever fits for them. I had this one client who we checked into with certain tools. That didn't work. We tacked back out. We tacked back in with another set of tools. That didn't work. Took us 4 times, but then we found the secret sauce for her. Right. And now she's just flying. She's absolutely flying. And it's so nice when I'm sitting at an event and all of a sudden one of my clients is up there speaking or one of my clients is being acknowledged. Oh my gosh. I feel like, a proud mama.
Well, and if you don't mind me saying this, you didn't motivate that person.
No.
You put in front of them things that they could find that they chose to be motivated by.
Yes.
And when you make that distinction, you allow people to find what really works. Because when we try to motivate somebody else, you're essentially guessing. You're shooting in the dark. Even if somebody tells you, well, I think this motivates me, you don't know. They have to find it themselves.
Yeah, I can't motivate anybody else. Matter of fact, there are 3 qualities that I look for in working with clients, and I won't take them on if they don't have them. One is they have to have a fire in the belly. Mm-hmm. There's the motivation.
That's right.
Fire in the belly. They have to. 2 is they have to want to succeed, and there's a difference between want and have to and need.
Right.
They want to succeed. And the 3rd is they have to show up for them. You hear me say it every week here, show up for you and show up big. I mean it.
Right.
Because if you don't show up for you, whatever somebody's giving you, it doesn't mean anything. It's just going to fall off. It's that toy that gets put up on the shelf that you don't use. How many people out there, how many of you have purchased an online course and then felt really good about yourself but never completed it?
That's right.
How many of you started a book but never completed it? How many of you started a project at your house and never completed it, or at work? That's what we do. Right. All of this is self-motivating. It has to come from within. All I do is help guide. We're all learning. Somebody called me, I'm their teacher. I'm their Kundalini yoga teacher. And I was like, no, I'm a student as well. I just happen to be leading this particular group.
Right.
But I am a student as well. So I learn from my clients. My clients learn from me. I take those tools and I go to other clients. The clients then take it and they bring it to their staff. And that's how the world goes around. So, but I loved that. I never really thought about that before. But yeah, we take a step back. But it doesn't mean, like a proud mama, it doesn't mean that we're not in there feeling really good about it.
Well, you get your fulfillment in seeing their success.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't need the bow. You don't need the crowd. You don't need the cheer.
Nope.
You want to find in other people. I like the reason I personally enjoy mentoring is I like finding things in people they didn't know were there.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's the fun part, and the capabilities that they have, and not having the confidence, and it's fierce. I just was speaking to a woman today, and she was like, "Well, I can't do this, and I can't," and I used the why not. I used the Vince Perrotta, why not? Why not you?
Right.
Why not you? And she couldn't answer that question, and I kept asking it, and she couldn't answer that, and then she goes, "I guess I can." So either I why notted her into submission, or she recognized that, why not her?
And walk through the logic. Why not? Okay, so let's say you try it. We know you can't do it, but let's do it anyway. If you fail, we already knew you were going to fail, so it's not really a big deal. You couldn't do something that you thought you couldn't do. But let's take the opposite of that. What if you do it and it turns out that you could? And then not only were you able to do it, but there might be ways to improve what you did so that you could actually do it better.
See, I'm a proponent of you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And my father used to say that and annoyed the bejeebus out of me. And I use it all the time now. So thanks, Dad. But it's true. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. Now, will you be the best at it? That's different. And I think that's what you're speaking to is I might not be the best linebacker, but could I be a linebacker if I really wanted to? And I did the training and I set goals and I did the work. I could be a linebacker if I wanted to. I could be.
There's a lot of things.
I could be a linebacker if
right now.
I could, as long as I could have high heels, and that would probably take me right out.
High heels and shoulder pads. That's big in the fall this year. You're going to see that on the runway.
Bling on my helmet and the whole. But you get my point, don't you, Vince?
Yeah. No, it's true. You can, but I think sometimes it's necessary to tell somebody, okay, you can't do this. That's fine. But let's do it anyway.
Actually, yeah. Well, and I used to do that at one of my old jobs. Their famous line was, well, we always do it this way. Because I say, why do you do this? And well, it's always been done that way. Right. That's just drives me insane. And I was like, well, humor me. Let's try it this way. If it doesn't succeed, because you think it's not going to succeed, if it doesn't succeed, then we can always go back to the old way. Nothing lost. Nothing lost, nothing gained, right? And to this day, those things they have kept in place, not because I said it, but because they were just other collaborative ideas that people brought along and they gave it a try. So sometimes we get caught in a rut. And that's the thing that a mentor is really good about, is we're coming in from the outside looking in. We have no attachment to the outcome.
That's right.
We have no attachment to the people there. We have, nothing is going to fail or succeed for us. It's all them.
Well, it's our blind spot, right? If you have somebody who can show you your blind spot and actually see it and point it out to you,
yep.
The other component of that is, are you willing to listen? Because it's easy to hear it, but not do it. Hence
why the 3 requirements. Because if you're going to show up for you and if you're going to really want to succeed, then why not listen? I had a client who didn't listen and he thought he knew better and he kept changing things the other way. And I was like, okay, there's no need for me to be here. You're wasting your money. So I fired him as a client and I went on my way. It's
the following week he returned.
That's right. Say, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I actually had one that he wasn't showing up for him. He wasn't showing up to his mentoring calls. Whether you show up or not, you're still getting charged for it, but it's still my time. And I could have had a client who was going to want to really be there. So I actually told him, I fired him. I said, I don't think this is going to work for us. And he goes, no, it will. I promise I'll do the work. And I was like, well, that's fine, but let's put it off. So that was in November a year ago. And he kept saying, no, and kept trying to come back in for about 2 months. And I said, listen, we'll revisit this at the end of January. And when we revisited at the end of January, I got to tell you, Vince, he was on fire. He was showing up for him. He was doing the work. And the work, I'm not just giving to them for willy-nilly. It's actually it's tasks to move their dreams and visions along. It's tasks to get them to the goal.
It's a conscious commitment.
Yes.
I heard some
to themselves, not to me.
That's right. And the difference is, as a mentor to somebody, I heard this recently and I absolutely love this. If you're exhausted after a mentor session with someone, you're working too hard and they're not working at all.
Right.
And at the end of a session, they should feel that they've exuded more energy and put more into it. Your role as the mentor is to guide them, help them, find in them what they need to find. Yeah. Give them the, kind of the bowling alley, the old, when we were a little kid, right? We're going to put the things in the lane so this way we'll keep the ball on the track. But you've got to work, not me. It's got to be yours.
Yep. Again, it's not my business.
Right.
And a lot of times, we'll offer different suggestions, and they have to choose what will work for them. And it's not right or wrong. It's about what will work for them, their team, their business. I'll make my recommendations from the outside, but they have to sit with it and own it. And if that doesn't feel comfortable for them, and it should feel a little uncomfortable, we do this. I do this vision exercise where I have them go to 7 areas of their life, and we go through and make goals in all 7 areas. And interesting patterns show up when they do that. So, and it also gives me an insight on what their vision and goals and dreams are. So it gives a lot of insight for me to help guide them in the direction they want, because a lot of times they say they want to do one thing and then we do this exercise. Right. It looks totally different. And that's not unusual. So I love going through this exercise and they find these things and they're like, I don't even know why I wrote that down. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. This is why you wrote it down. You see the connections.
If somebody wanted to self-assess to figure out, do I need a mentor? Do I need a coach? What would you suggest and recommend that they like? Are there questions that you would say, if I ask myself these questions, or if I do this kind of an assessment on myself, how can I figure out if I really should get a mentor?
I always we need somebody to be able to safely, confidently bounce things off of. Because a lot of what we do is we are the safe people. You can go into that soundproof room and say anything you want about anything, anywhere, about anybody, and it stays safely in that room and you don't feel diminished. So just look at this. If you are, let's just say, a CEO of a company, and you have a board that you report to, you can't go to them. Mm-hmm. You can't go to the people who work for you, right? You can't really go to your family and friends because they're relying on you and you don't want to feel like you've diminished the relationship. However, I have a side comment to that. Those relationships aren't good if that diminishes it, but some people get that feeling. Right. So that gremlin sits in there and that holds them back from being the best them they could be. When you have that kind of a situation, or any situation where you don't have someone to confide in, I recommend a mentor. I recommend mentors to everyone. I have one. Everybody that I know has a mentor. Mm-hmm. Each of us don't have all the answers, but collectively we do. And you have all the answers for what you need. I just, like you say, I'm just the cat batting the ball back and forth just to keep you in your lane, because so many times those distractions get you off of track. So I spend a lot of time being an accountability partner. So if you're looking for somebody to keep you accountable, if you're looking to do something but you keep finding that you're jumping out and not doing it, or you're too afraid to move forward, that's when you should have a mentor. You should have someone who can guide you, have someone who can keep you on your track. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It does. It does, because I think not infrequently people think, oh, I don't really need a mentor. How do I know? And it's, and that's a fair question. How do I know? Yeah. Right? I need help. At what point do I need help? And I think that the other part of it is, tell me what you think of this. I think you could need help in certain situations. Sure. And then you could need kind of an overall business or career guidance. Sure. And those are different things. So situationally, you might need a mentor, and then you might take a break and then come back to it at another time, depending on, what's going on in your life. Yeah,
without a doubt. So you'll see I have a lot of different titles. There's a reason for it, not because I'm schizophrenic.
Yes, although, it is.
No, it's not. Not helping. All right, maybe. I don't know. I'll let you know later.
3 different answers. Okay.
No, so one of my titles is I'm a professional. I help people with professional development. Right. It's the same thing as being a mentor, advisor. But because it has a different title, different people respond to it. So that's what the different titles are. I'm also an implementation engineer. Somebody coined me that, and I was like, that is brilliant, because I help people set their businesses up to be sold eventually. And that could be when you start it, you're properly setting it up so that your book of business is established, or you're creating a book of business. A lot of people don't create their business that way.
Right.
So on the other end, if you want, you can either leave a legacy to your family, or you can sell the business, get the money, retire in a really nice, lifestyle that you've become accustomed to. I help people implement a lot of standard operating procedures and things like that so that they're ready financially and operationally, because people look at the operational point of your business before they'll look at to purchase you.
Right.
So I help them set up SOPs. I can't tell you how many businesses have zero standard operating procedures, which is a really good litmus test when you're doing something to make sure you're on track.
That's right.
That, along with your mission statement and your values and your visions, all that stuff put together, it gives you a litmus test. Do I want to work with this person? As even a vendor, do they have the same visions? Do they have the same values? That matters to me, because if they don't, we're going to collide down the road.
Right.
And if you could avoid that colliding, and if you could work with the right people, you're going to have less conflict.
And I want to go back to something you said when somebody's preparing to sell a business. It's very funny. We generally hear people say, without me, this business doesn't survive. That's a really poor measure of your business, because if your business is really strong, then you've created an opportunity, you've created an operation that you run, you facilitate, you drive and thrive, but it can run without you, so that somebody that wants to buy it knows, I'm getting a business that I can drive and thrive. You shouldn't be indispensable. You should be a critical part of it, but another leader should be able to assume that. Think about it. I'm trying to sell my business. I want you to feel, hey, if you come in, it's not going away.
Yeah.
It's going to stay here. You got the value.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's by having procedures in place. That's where you could see the value by having, and I know you have a lot of procedures in place. Oh, for God's sakes. You think I'm OCD. Hoi. I think you have
I'm the advanced class.
This is true. Really. He makes me look like a starter kid, for God's sakes. But but the procedures you have in place, it makes sense, because you could literally hand it over to someone else.
That's right.
And you leave it in a form, and I love doing this, leaving it in a form where somebody could just slide in and take it. It's intuitive.
Yes.
And you set it up intuitively. And that's what I help businesses do, is help them do that. That's a mentor. That's an advisor. That's give me any title. I don't care. Let me help you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It really makes an enormous difference. I used to consult for physicians years ago, and you'd get a doc that would say, well, I did this my own blood, sweat, and tears. I understand that. But can we somehow find a way to bring a young physician in and help them be successful, so that you can ride off into the sunset when you want, but they can assume this practice and make it big?
Well, because it becomes a legacy, not over.
Right.
So there's the difference. It continues, and it may change. It's going to look different, because then that personality is going to come in and probably give it a different face. But that's expected. You know, we even give facelifts to our kitchens. We give facelifts to our houses and our landscaping. Right. So why would we not do that to businesses? And we should be doing that to our businesses. I'm a big proponent of, let's look at the website. It's been 3 years. Let's relook at it. 2 to 3 years. I take a look. It doesn't mean we're going to change it, but maybe we need to tweak it, because we may be behind the times. The same thing with the businesses. Yes, it worked. Yes, it thrived. But how are we going to keep it so that it becomes a legacy? And I think everybody wants to leave a legacy, don't you?
I do. And I think that that's one of the greatest ways to do it.
Yeah.
To be able to create that kind of an environment, that kind of an opportunity for someone.
Yeah, especially if you're a solopreneur like I am, having that book of business, multiple revenue streams, that's something that's desirable for another solopreneur to absorb rather. So helping people set themselves up so that they can do that. I look forward to the day that somebody comes in, knocks on my door, and says, I'd like to buy your business. Okay.
That's right. That's
Feel
right.
free.
And I'll be going now.
That's right. Which door would you like me to leave from? No, that's the goal, right?
It is. We need to always remember that We can do it differently. We can do it better, but we need to allow it to be able to be sustainable.
Yeah.
Sustainability is important.
Totally agree with that. That and surrounding yourself with smarter people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're, a matter of fact, if you feel like you're the smartest person in the room, you did a really bad job hiring.
Yeah.
Because I've found throughout my career, the smarter the people that I hire, that, they'd walk in and I go, you're way smarter than me. Give me your guidance. What are we doing here? Help me understand. As a leader, I don't need to be the smartest kid in class.
Nope.
I just need to get them and put them in a room together.
Yeah.
And then I lead them in a way that lets them thrive. And when they can do that, they'll drive your business successfully. That's why you want them there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it when they have that fire and they know what they want and they have a vision. That vision is a gift. I call them my Super Balls. They bounce all over the place. And all I do is I take that energy and I harness it and direct it and keep it on a track. But the visioning continues. You don't want to squelch that. And that's what sometimes when you're feeling like you're being suffocated, you're being squelched from the creativity that you could possibly have. So I love my Super Bowl clients. They're awesome. They just have all this creativity, and it's just
they're like thoroughbreds.
They really are.
Right? You break them. You got to help them learn how to run the track.
Right.
I want you to be a thoroughbred. I want you to keep that fire, but I want you to run the track.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's very sage to leave us with. Vince, thank you so much for being on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me out.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lori Anne. My heart is always lifted by spending this time with you. I know time is very special, and by spending it with me, it's very, very appreciated without a doubt. So in the meantime, I thank you for joining us on Healthy Lifestyle. I am Lori Anne Casdia. Until next time, what are you going to do? You're going to play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up big.